Hey, my washing machine just finished. That's what that was. Oh, how you doing? Thank you for watching this video. I just wanted to make a quick little video to talk about the DJI Avata and my first impressions, which I got a couple of days ago, and I've been flying it since, almost every day. This is a beautiful drone. It's a Cinewhoop drone, so this is the props are protected with these ducts. So if you're new to FPV, this is basically an FPV that allows you to get really close to things, so close proximity flying. If you were to hit a tree or a wall with this thing, you'd probably just sort of bounce off. There's more protection in case, hopefully you don't, but if you were to hit somebody, it would just bounce off of them rather than grind them and cause an injury, which you still don't want to do because, I mean, these are blenders, basically. But yeah, you know, it's those are my kids. Yeah, so I just wanted to say a couple of quick things about it. So yeah, I have it. I love it. I like it in normal mode because it has downward sensors that help you maintain elevation, which I think will be handy for property videos. However, I fly it in manual, and that's great for... I'm actually getting pretty good with it. I might even fly manual for property, but I have a feeling the strong thing that this brings to the equation is those downward sensors. And I have a Cinelog 25 by GEP-RC, which doesn't have that. So I really had to get good at flying manual or acro with that drone. And one of the challenges with Cinewhoops is maintaining your elevation, because you want to keep that as consistent as possible. And as you adjust you know, if you're going forward and you have it tilted forward, your thrust goes to an angle, and you have to compensate for that. You got to raise the thrust. You always have to know exactly how your drone is positioned in the sky, and with every sort of rotation or pitch that you do, you have to adjust your throttle and compensate for the movement to try and keep it as steady as possible. And with simulators, which I have almost all of them, and with practice, which I've practiced a bazillion times with my GEP-RC Cinelog 25, which is a great drone, by the way, you know, you get better at that. With this, you've got sensors that help you to do that. So that, I think, will be helpful for slow tour kind of flights, which is why I was drawn to this. Also, the camera is good, 155 degree field of view, although it's 8-bit, which is unfortunate. I would have preferred it to be a 10-bit, but built in, which means because it's not, I'm going to probably end up having a camera mounted on this thing, which I think a lot of people will end up doing. But when you have a camera mounted on that, you're only flying in manual mode, which means your camera's going to be locked off at a certain angle. Because in manual mode, the camera, which is here, it's on an axis. In normal and sports mode, as the drone sort of tilts forward and back, that camera also sort of compensates to stay level, to keep you always looking straight. You can't do that in manual mode, which means your camera at the top will be locked off, just as the camera built in would be locked off, which is not a big deal, but it's just one of those things you have to get used to. But yeah, so if I'm in manual mode, I won't have that downward sensor, so then I'm back to square one. Anyway, battery life is amazing. 18 minutes of battery life, they say, but if you're in manual mode, it's more like 14 minutes, which is like incredible, because the GEP-RC, I'm happy with 4 minutes per flight. So to go from 4 minutes to 14 minutes is just amazing. It's wonderful. I think a lot of people, and friends of mine as well, who haven't had FPV drones, they're thrilled with this thing, because it's a good sort of transition. This is the transition DJI should have introduced to, you know, camera, GPS, gimbal kind of stabilized drone pilots. To go from that to this to FPV, this makes more sense than what they released a year and a half ago, which is the FPV combo, which is still a, you know, awesome drone, but this is more dangerous. It's double the weight of this. Is 800 and something grams. This is 400, and there's no protection unless you buy the prop guards. But it's not built in. And also durability on this thing is a lot worse than this. This is great. Repairability on this thing is more promising than on this. This thing you basically have to send to DJI to get repaired. So I don't know. This makes more sense. This thing is like a Ferrari this thing's going to just gun it where you need to go. This is aggressive flying. This can do a lot of aggressive flying, especially if you're in manual mode, but it's not this. This is a lot lightweight and less forceful. So this is less intimidating, and I think this is going to please a lot of people. In fact, the reviews, I'm sure you know, are quite good. So yeah, I think that this is going to have a bright future. There's going to be a lot of manufacturers, third-party manufacturers that are going to do all kinds of things, new prop guards, maybe a new frame, who knows what. I think there's going to be a lot of modding going on in the world of the DJI Avata, so expect interesting things to come out. One of the first things I'm going to do in terms of modding would be the camera, to mount a GoPro on top of that, or an Action 2. I like Action 2. DJI has a pretty good camera. I'm curious to see what they bring to the table with an Action 3 or Insta360. They got some interesting stuff too. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Just sort of say that I'm loving it, loving the battery life. I think it's not the cheapest. Oh, quality. Those goggles are incredible. There's two versions of this, with the older FPV goggles, which I think they call them V2 goggles, and these goggles are their new entry to the world of this goggle space for FPV, and this one is, I think they call it the Goggles 2. So it's a little confusing. One's the V2, but that's the older version. This is the newer version. This is the Goggles 2. A little confusing. But really high quality image. 1080p live stream from this thing is just amazing. It's a pleasure to use. One thing I don't like is the foam. It really presses down on the nose. People are complaining. I see that. I think the foam definitely needs to be replaced. The V2 older iteration fits way more comfortably on the face, and I think there's a anti-fog tech which works way better on that than on this. I'm not sure how it works on this yet, but I have had it fog up on me. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you don't have one, and if you're thinking about getting into FPV, but you don't want to, dive deep like I did with the other FPV stuff and go manual, this might be worth looking into. I think it's definitely something I would recommend. I'd recommend this over that for anybody going into FPV for the first time, especially if you have previous flying experience. And the hope that I have is that these goggles will ultimately be opened up to work with new air units in the future. That's sort of the rumor, that this will be the goggles to have with the new air units that they are rumored to be coming out with DJI. And that means I will be able to buy third-party FPV drones made by, hopefully, GepRC that would have like a light version of that air unit that would work with those goggles. That's a future I'm looking forward to. But until then, this will probably be the drone that I use more often than not. This and my GepRC Cinelog 25, which I love. That's a fun drone. All right. Thank you for watching, and I guess we'll see you in the next video. Please consider subscribing, and please let me know what you think of the DJI Avata, if you like it or hate it. I would love to get some feedback. Thank you for watching. Bye.